Hey everybody, this video is part of our full-length The Onside Kick podcast. You can find that on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes. You can pretty much find it anywhere, so we don't care where you listen. Just stick around and check it out.
We're going to end the show with, we're going to move right up to that third pick, and another one where I'm just going to go out there and spoil my pick. Leonard Fournette, number 3 overall in my mock draft. You can check it out down below, to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And let me just talk you through this one really quick, because I know that Todd McShay and his had Jamal Adams, the safety, going to Jacksonville. And my mindset was, you look at this team. They've already gone with Donta Fowler. They've already gone Miles Jack, the linebacker last year in the second round, a steal in my mind when he gets healthy. They went with Jalen Ramsey. They have gotten guys where it's like they have gone defense in the last 2 years so much to where I'm like, you know what? I look at this offense and I see Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns, 2 quality number 1 receivers. You look at tight end. You've got the tight end there. I mean, you'd want Julius Thomas to be healthy and out there, but when he is, boom, you got your tight end. I look at Blake Bortles and it's like, is he your franchise? Right now, I'd lean no. But at the same time, I look behind him and I go, what has he had to lean on? TJ Yeldon? Chris Ivory this year? Haven't really been that good. So I look at it and go, hey, if I'm Jacksonville, if I think this kid is really the guy who can be the quarterback of our franchise. I'm not saying be the next Tom Brady. I'm just saying be the guy to lead our franchise to wins and playoffs in the future. I'm getting him a run game. And if I'm looking at it, and I know that there are commenters that have commented in the past that Leonard Fournette, he's overrated. He's not like, oh, we throw out the AP comparison and he's nowhere near AP and Dalvin Cook is better and this and that. Let's be frank. When Leonard Fournette is healthy, he is the best running back that we have seen in a draft since Adrian Peterson. I look at that and I go, let's take him. Get Blake Bortles a running back to lean on so that the pressure's not all on him.
You know, I think it's tough for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think a running back is the solution to the problems that they have. This team is bad in pretty much all categories. It's a bad defense. It's a bad offense. Blake Bortles is not very good. He shows these little moments where he is good, and then that's it. It doesn't work out after that. They've had a lot of injuries, a lot of issues, especially with the offensive line. It's just the reason why you can't really say what the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to do yet is because Gus Bradley's going to be fired.
Is he going to be there?
No, he won't. He's going to be fired. We know this already.
Cough. Tom Coughlin going to be coming back to the Jaguars?
We kind of have to see what that new coach is going to be. What's the identity of the team? You could just
say it, Tom Coughlin, right?
I hope so.
Or Jeff Fisher could be going down.
Stop. I hope that too.
Stop.
I hope that they both get to co-coach. It'll be fun. It's just a question of that because I think that, yes, they've gone defensively so much, but the defense isn't good. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the issues are injuries to this team, but they haven't fixed it. They haven't fixed it. You've got these wide receivers, and yes, the run game would be nice, but don't you kind of think, well, we got the good wide receivers. We got the quarterback that's supposed to be good. We got pieces here. That's not what the issue is. Let's look at this defense again. Let's keep trying to fix this defense. I have trouble for the Jacksonville Jaguars moving away from the defensive side of the ball.
I'm going to agree with the fact that they need to look at the defense, but I think that, Ricky, to your point, you can't continue to put pieces on the offensive side, especially a running back, to have no line to run behind. I think that what the Jacksonville Jaguars need to do is they need to look at the offensive line first because they're not giving any help to Blake Bortles. He doesn't have a whole lot of time. I mean, look at him I'm not exactly sure what's happened this year to Jacksonville because last year they weren't good, but at least he was able to put up some numbers. I mean, Hold on.
I
You get
know, I
giddy.
was
You
gonna
get real giddy.
I got a question for you.
I'm sure you do.
I just threw out my index.
You always do. You're always a thinker.
I threw out the index
but,
finger.
I think that. Thank you. I think that what has happened? Why has there been such a decline this year from last year? Bortles numbers are way down, which in turn then Allen Robinson has gone poof, disappear. He is gone. Allen
Like a genie.
Hearns is hurt. Julius Thomas is barely used. I mean, they're getting guys like Marquise Lee. Who the hell's that? I think that, it's
one of those great USC receivers.
It's exactly who is that? But it's one of those things where what has happened? Is it such a decline in talent, or is it there's no offensive line? Chris Ivory, they overpaid for him because I don't think they thought they'd get anybody else. Chris Ivory is a huge contract there at running back. The other guy that they've got at running back, whose name is escaping me right now because he's so good, clearly.
Yeldon?
Yeldon, yeah. I mean, he's a third down passing back. That's what he is. And Chris Ivory, he's not your workhorse. I just don't think that you put Leonard Fournette out there and it's going to be any better behind, again, an offensive line that I think needs so much work. As I would look at the offensive line. That's what I would go with. I would go with a piece for the offensive line. I think that's the most important thing for Jacksonville right now to try and shore that up. I mean, look what the Cowboys have been able to do. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott is really good. He's really good, but if he had the offensive line of, let's say, the Giants, would he be so good? No, probably not.
And I think it's something valuable to say, too, of another guy who was really good is Todd Gurley just a few years ago, and now this offensive line that they have in Los Angeles is terrible.
Yeah.
And he can't do anything.
And I want to throw this question at you, Brandon, because you brought up the offensive line. Also, because the guy I'm mentioning is an Alabama guy, and you love your Alabama Crimson Tide, Cam Robinson.
Yeah.
I had him going 7 to the Panthers. Do the Jaguars, is it a reach if they go Cam Robinson at 3? Should they think about maybe looking at Cam Robinson at 3 instead of defense to strengthen that line?
I mean, I personally would say yes, because for them, it's, again, I get it. Defense is a huge thing, and for some of these teams, we have a lot of issues. Which one do we want to tackle first? But I think with them, I would say offense because a team like them who was able, again, to put up so many points that they did last year, and then all of a sudden this year have such a regression. I think that they have to look at that and go, these Blake Bortles is not that bad. Allen Robinson's not that bad. When you're looking stats-wise, Allen Hearns is not that good what he was able to put up last year. He's not 10 touchdowns each season good. But I think it's something where they look and they go, we gotta add a piece to that offensive line. We gotta do something better there, because I personally, if I'm their GM, am not going, oh yeah, Leonard Fournette, let's get him and throw him into a fire of crap that is, he's not going to be successful. You need to first, I think, make that offensive line better, and then try and bring him in a piece. You're not going to be able to get offensive line and then get Leonard Fournette as well in the same year. That's just not going to happen. But I think that's why I visit offensive line first, because there's a reason why this team has gone backwards, and I won't put it all on them, but I will put a good amount, 80% on that offensive line.
And one thing that could happen,
so to answer your question, I would reach.
So you would reach and go Cam Robinson at 3.
Cam Robinson, again, he has his off-field issues, but I would reach for him.
That could happen, and of course, mock draft 1.0, things can change. The first thing is Roderick Johnson, the offensive tackle out of Florida State. We got to find out after this bowl game against Michigan if he's actually going to come out or stay. If he comes out, right now he's penciled in. On mine, I had him 28 to the Seahawks because I think Seattle needs offensive line help, and they can't overlook it, especially with that 28th pick that they would have right now. However, if he's a guy that falls to the second round, maybe the Jaguars could go Leonard Fournette at 3, a Roderick Johnson in the second round early, and fit that offensive tackle kind of a need, because to me, Roderick Johnson was actually the third offensive tackle taken. My second one went to the Colts with Ryan Ramsky from the Wisconsin Badgers, the kid who transferred from D3, played D1 last year, and now he's looking to get drafted into the NFL. So with me, I looked for the home run here. I looked at Fournette, and I said, you know what? It's one of those things, and this is the interesting thing with Fournette. If you're a team that doesn't have that running back that you're like, no, we're good, like the Le'Veon Bells, the Ezekiel Elliott's, I'll throw Jordan Howard in there because I know that Mark doesn't want you guys to take Leonard Fournette. Can you look at Fournette and go, I don't want to pass on maybe the next Adrian Peterson, if that's who we're kind of looking at? Like, he's the best one we've seen since AP with that explosiveness.
Okay, I just want to throw something in here really quick. This is totally throwing a monkey wrench into the Flames, and people will tell me to go jump in a lake, and that will not be feeling too good right now. But would someone look at Leonard Fournette and say, you know what? This guy, real good talent. He looked fairly injury prone in his final season. I'm going to skip over him, go Dalvin Cook instead.
It could. I mean, I got flack for, at number 9, having the Browns go with Dalvin Cook so high, having him go in the top 10.
I mean, do you think that someone would realistically look at that and say, you know what? I feel Dalvin Cook a little bit better. I mean, he had maybe not the season that I certainly not the season I thought that he would have at Florida State this year. I thought after what we saw from him last year, I thought he'd really kind of break out, be explosive this year.
Bit.
He was still very good.
But he wasn't the one that he was
But then
last
again,
year.
Leonard Fournette also dropped way off, I think, this year as well. Would it be too crazy to put Dalvin Cook above Leonard Fournette for some teams?
It wouldn't be crazy. The thing I think of, and this is the big if, like when Leonard Fournette is healthy, best running back in college football. Like, I go back to, and Sean was actually bringing this up yesterday at dinner when we were talking about it. He brought up that Ole Miss game, and he's like, remember watching that at Dave's? Remember seeing what he can do? Basically, the meme on the internet where he put the defender in his grave, just buried him right into the ground, right into his grave as he went on for a touchdown. You look at that and you go, that is the explosive Leonard Fournette that we can get. But the question is, the ankle injury he had this year, how big of a hindrance is that going to be? Plus, he's been a guy that we talked about in college, has had a lot of carries at LSU. Running backs, what you worry about is that wear and tear for the running backs, especially on those knees.
Absolutely. And you say health. I mean, that's one of the biggest factors that someone's going to be looking at.
And that's something that they're going to be an issue in combines and things like that. Is it's going to be all right, let's have a doctor look at him. Let's see that ankle. Let's see what somebody thinks. How much more does he have left? How much more can that ankle give before it's done? You know, the question of, if these guys are healthy, Fournette's he's going right off the bat. I mean, if he's absolutely healthy, if he never had that ankle injury, and he had the season we all wanted him to have, he's number 1 overall. There's no question about that, I think.
But he was number 1 overall in my... Or no, he was number 4. I forgot I had 2 quarterbacks going my way too early.
Yeah, you would do that.
Almost my number 1 to the Browns.
And now you
really
have no quarterbacks. So fun how that happens.
Yeah.
No, I think that he would have been number 1 overall if everything was going great. Now, can a guy like Cook be taken in front of him? Sure. If injuries, if doctors are looking at him and saying, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm that confident in that ankle holding up for your 16 games that you want him. Teams could easily go and make that switch, because I think that there's some. Sure, it's nice to have Adrian Peterson. Yes, it's nice to have Ezekiel Elliott, but at the same time, teams get by with the 2 or 3 all right running backs and a good offensive line. Teams get by with a 4th round pick in Jordan Howard coming out there and just being explosive. You can get your running back elsewhere. It can happen.
Look at Melvin Gordon, gets taken not as high as I have Leonard Fournette going, gets taken by the Chargers in the teens, doesn't do anything his rookie year, takes until his sophomore year, and then he finally turns it on and does something.
You can put I think the running game is something you can put together. Mm-hmm. What you can't put together
is a passing game.
A passing game, yes, sure. You also can't just string together a bunch of guys to be your offensive line. Mm-hmm. No, your offensive line needs to gel together. That needs to be something
unit
that you really focused on. You can't just put together a defense in most situations. Sure, you can throw a bunch of money out there, but typically... Giants, of course, excluded this year because it looks like it's starting to work out for them. It usually isn't going to work out. I am not... Yes, the running game is important, but I am not that person that says you need that best guy ever. If there's someone who might be Adrian Peterson, you need him on your team right now because you can get somebody else that will be able to put up the numbers for your team. And a team like Jacksonville is not Teddy Two Gloves. It is not the team that needs Adrian Peterson.
Doesn't have that Mike Zimmer
forward.
Built defense either.
Blake Bortles is supposed to be Andrew Luck in Indianapolis. He is supposed to be the guy that puts it on his shoulders, utilizes his weapons, throws it all over everybody. That's what he's supposed to do. And I don't think that Leonard Fournette fits into that.
The big reason why I'm still right now sticking with Leonard Fournette, obviously, because I'm going to defend my pick. The thing that I think of with this run game is you need somebody who's going to be a threat. Whether you think that's Leonard Fournette, almost call him AP, at 3, whether you think it's I don't know, let's throw out if Deonta Freeman falls, even though he'll probably be a first-round talent. If you think someone in the second round is worth it. This Jacksonville team on the offensive side, needs to look at the run game and say, we need to find something. Remember who they signed 2 years ago from my Minnesota Vikings and Toby Gernhardt. Remember how he was supposed to be the guy to kind of solidify this Jacksonville
I don't know
run
why anybody
game,
thought that.
And then he got cut released before his contract could fill out in 3 years.
When was the last good, decent Jacksonville
MJD,
running back?
Jones Drew.
MJD, Fred Taylor. I mean,
decades.
My gosh, it honestly goes all the way back there, which was what I feel like that was 5 years ago. I mean, I feel like that was a good 5 years. They have not had then a solid running game since that. And I agree with Mark, though. I think that sometimes, again, I think teams get really antsy on going with the best guy in the first round.
Best guy.
Ezekiel Elliott has turned out to be a really, really good guy. Mm-hmm. But how many times have you been able to find, or teams been able to find, a diamond in the rough, so to say, in that second, that third, that possibly fourth round, where you're going, man, glad we didn't go with that guy in the first round that is really, really struggling right now and is going to end up being, let's say, a bust. I'm not going to say that Leonard Fournette is going to be anything of a bust, but you just never know. Sometimes you go for that good guy who's got all that hype, and turns out they really had an injury problem that we didn't know about.
The one thing I want to say about Zeke, though, is, and I don't want to take away from what he's done because he is a good running back, but with Zeke, and I throw Dak Prescott into this too, how much ownership do you put on that offensive line where it's like you're playing behind the best offensive line in football? Of course it's going to be easy for you. Let's put Zeke on the Rams and see what he does. He probably is a good running back, better than Todd Gurley, but he ain't having an MVP-like season. We ain't talking about a rookie being in the MVP discussion if he has the St. Louis Ram offensive line or even the Minnesota Viking offensive line over that Cowboy offensive line. And it goes back to, with the Fournette thing, Jacksonville's offensive line. And that's going to be the one thing where do you not take a Fournette because your offensive line is weak?
I mean, I understand that and I get that, but I don't think that you can say Ezekiel Elliott's just he's just an okay running back because it's all on this offensive line that's doing it for him.
He'd
because
still be a top running back in the league. He just wouldn't be MVP discussion.
absolutely fall into a good situation,
Phenomenal situation
at Dallas? Yes. Let's just take a very, very quick look at DeMarco Murray. Man, having a wonderful season in Dallas. Off to the Eagles. Ryan Matthews was playing over him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I completely agree with you in that sense, but I would not say that Ezekiel Elliott is.
From him, though.
And you will do anything to take away from Dak Prescott, I think is awful.
I'm saying Zeke.
But
I'm saying Zeke.
You said Prescott. You threw him in there because you hate him.
I don't hate him. I just want to be
chance
right.
you can get to take
I just want to be right.
I agree with that. But that's why I think it's so important at a place like, going back to it really quickly, Jacksonville. Don't try and go for the running back and then, year by year we'll fill in the offensive line. Fill in the offensive line, and you could have Chris Ivory, and hell, you can make him look like Ezekiel Elliott.
I want to slip one thing here right in at the end before we close up shop. There was one pick that I kind of got a little bit of comments on in our comment section, and it has to do with Sean Anderson's favorite team in the New England Patriots. I had Juju Smith-Schuster, whatever, Juju Smith. I basically had Juju Smith fall to 31st by the New England Patriots. I am putting you in the shoes of Robert Kraft and the Patriots. You get a choice between two players. Who do you go with? Wide receiver and Juju Smith, running back and Christian McCaffrey. Brandon, start with you. Who do you take out of those two?
Wide receiver, Juju Smith. I've got my running back. LeGarrette Blount.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Unfortunately, I feel like, I got wide receivers too. So I don't necessarily feel like I need them. I have Tom Brady is what I really have. He's the one who's going to make anybody into the next great wide receiver. But they did also just, take the DUI cast off from Arizona. So they might feel kind of good.
They're saved then.
They might feel kind of good.
The savior.
No, so I think I probably would lean towards running back in this, to be honest, because you know how the Patriots work. You're only on that team for, your days are numbered. You're only on that team for so long.
Unless you're Tom Brady, then you will stay forever.
Or Julian Edelman, because you kind of modeled yourself to be Tom Brady light. Or diet Tom
Julian
Brady.
Edelman, he's only been there for so long.
Yeah,
He'll
but
be kicked off soon
I'm
enough.
saying, you look at Julian Edelman.
That's the way the Patriots work.
He's a guy that wants to be Tom Brady. You look at the logo of his brand, exactly the same as Tom Brady, with the JE and then his number. Dude idolizes Tom Brady, and why wouldn't you?
My thing is, okay, Juju, how tall is he? 6'4", 6'5"? Is he
around there? He's one that's not going to burn you away with his speed, though.
But when's the last time they had a guy
Randy Moss
at that? Yeah. Tom Brady would be itching, I think, to be able to throw to a guy
6'2",
with some size. I thought he was bigger than that, but I think that Tom Brady, again, he would be very happy to have a bigger guy like that, because he's got the small white guy down. He's got Danny Amendola. He's got Julian Edelman.
He used to have Wes Welker.
Julian Edelman's brother, basically.
Yeah.
I think
they both had the same amount of concussions.
They've morphed into the same person, but it's Wes Edelman. I think
Wes Edelman.
I think
or Julian Welker.
Yes, both guys are walking around.
Yeah.
But I think, in all honesty, on some final thoughts with this one, is I would go wide receiver for that fact, because Tom Brady, I mean, he can work with anybody, but I think that you could really help to improve the offense even more so in the passing game, because that could be a guy who could stay around for a while, and he could turn him into a real good wide receiver real quick. And I think on the running back side, there's just too many guys in there. You've got James White, you got Dion Lewis, you got LeGarrette Blount. It's like, you don't need to add another one. With wide receiver, you can do that, because you need your guys on the outside. You need your guys in the slot position. That's why I would say Juju.
And the reason why I threw this in there right at the end was, like I was saying, me, Sean, and Dave were talking about it before the fast break. Sean, I think, was leaning more towards Christian McCaffrey. Also, we got a comment in the mock draft video of someone saying, hey, you know what? Look at what the USC receivers have done. And he said Nelson Aguilar will not be forgotten, when the Eagles picked him with their high pick, and he hasn't kind of flourished to what they want in Philly. But before I wrap anything up, is there anything with the draft on this draft special that we didn't touch that you're like, I'm itching to get it out there?
The one thing I want to say is something we have touched on. I wish we would stop comparing good players in college to the best players in the NFL. Last year we compared Ezekiel Elliott to Adrian Peterson. I'm pretty sure we had a podcast episode titled
Is he the next Adrian Peterson? I think you're right.
Yeah, and now we have Fournette, who we're saying is most likely the next great Adrian Peterson.
Hold on. Can I say really quickly? It's not it's this guy.
Yeah.
Across the table. It's Ricky. I think he could be the next AP.
No. I want to clarify my exact...
Because he wanted the Vikings to get him.
My exact wording is he is the best talent we've seen since Adrian Peterson. Like, one of those, like, revolutionizes a draft class. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's the best talent in a draft class we've seen since Adrian Peterson. I'm not saying he is Adrian Peterson because nobody is Adrian Peterson.
I just feel that we all throw these guys, and not saying in this room necessarily, everybody. I mean, I'm pretty sure Mel Kiper said that he is Adrian Peterson, or Todd McShay, whichever one.
They kind of morph.
They probably both have said it at the same time.
Todd.
So I think it's just, we all like to be like, how do I catch somebody's attention? I compare him to that really, really good player. That'll do it.
But I also think, I think sometimes though too, is it's not people necessarily, and Ricky, I would say this for you too, it's not necessarily that you're trying to say he's Adrian Peterson, but you're trying to give it a best comparison of how you can picture this person and what kind of skill set you think that they would have. So you say, very similar to... and then such and such NFL player. And I think that just helps to give the viewer, the listener, a better idea of...
They don't like that you're pointing at them right now.
I'm pointing at them for a reason because I'm going to tell them something that is really important. I was waiting for Brandon to stop talking.
Oh, no. Or you're kind of throwing me off. You're just...
I'm pointing at the camera.
just not looking at him, just pointing at him. So.
What I was going to say is basically like what you were saying, the player comparisons... One that I hit nail on the head because we did film breakdowns last year, 2 of them. We're going to do a lot more this year. We're basically going to hit a lot more film breakdowns. One guy I hit the nail on the head. I said, hey, you know what? Derrick Henry, he'd fit that Titan system. Who drafted him, Brandon?
The Titans.
The Tennessee Titans. So that's one I really hang my hat on because I kind of saw him as like the bus and... Michael the Burner Turner like Malarkey used when he was at Pittsburgh and Atlanta.
He just totally used that opportunity to pat himself on the back.
When doesn't he?
Big old pat on
when doesn't he? But I think that you're right though. I mean, take a look at DeMarco Murray. He's obviously having a great season with them, but don't say it's a comeback season. He don't want that.
No.
I think that Derrick Henry again will continue to thrive in that system too because of that. But another thing is if you're ever going to compare a player, never compare them to Tom Brady because Sean Anderson will tell you no one can beat Tom Brady.
Well, and he'll let you know down in the comment section, or Yanamir Yager as he's known in our comment section. Still don't know why.
Jagomir Jagger?
Yeah, Jagomir Jagger, as Brandon, the non-hockey guy, calls him. But thank you guys for either watching or listening to this very long draft special. We're going to do a lot more of these, especially while the season's going on when mock drafts are out, because me and Mark got playoff stuff to talk about with the onside kick. I want to thank Mark for being in on this TOK special. I want to thank Brandon for being kind of the special guest on this one, coming in from the Primetime Podcast.
Thank you.
And we are going to have the rest of the MVP guys on more of these, so stay tuned for all of our draft coverage coming up. Make sure to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast to help support the channel. But this is Ricky Widmer signing off for Brandon and Mark. As always, have a good day, everybody.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And don't worry, there is plenty more where that came from. You guys can check it out right over here. Click that video, start watching it, and just stick around on Most Valuable Podcasts.